Rise onto your tiptoes now. Do it slowly. Let your heels leave the floor just enough for your calves to wake up. Do not bounce. Do not chase height. Let your weight roll forward until the ball of each foot feels the floor more clearly than the heel. Keep one hand near a wall if you need balance. Let your knees stay soft. Let your jaw stay loose. Let your breath remain ordinary. Now lower your heels, then rise again. For the next 30 seconds, notice the strange machinery hidden inside something so small. The back of your lower leg tightens, the skin around your ankle pulls, your arch changes shape, your toes spread as if they are trying to read the room. Something in your calf squeezes without making a sound. Something in your chest adjusts without asking your permission. You are not doing a workout. You are pressing a pump, and the pump is made of muscle, blood, valves, pressure, timing, and gravity. Stephen Hawking understood that nothing in a physical system is separate from the forces acting on it. A small change in position can change the flow of energy through the whole structure. A boundary can become a gate. A curve can redirect motion. A tiny shift can reveal a law that was already there. Your tiptoes are not a fitness pose. They are a pressure experiment. And for 30 seconds, your body becomes a hydraulic machine standing upright against gravity. When you sit for hours, your blood does not stop moving. That would be too simple. It continues moving, but the physics become less generous. Gravity pulls blood downward into the veins of your feet and lower legs. Your arteries still push blood out from the heart, but the return trip is harder. Blood returning from your legs does not have a second heart buried in the ankle. It has something more primitive and more mechanical. It has contraction. It has valves. It has rhythm. That is the paradox. You can change the pressure story of your entire lower body with a motion so small that most people call it nothing. 30 seconds on your tiptoes can turn your calf from passive tissue into a squeezing chamber. It can take a column of blood that was resting low in the body and give it a directional push. It can remind your veins that they were built for movement, not for stillness disguised as productivity. But if the heart is already beating, if blood is already circulating, why would lifting your heels matter at all? Your lower leg is not just a piece of anatomy between knee and foot. It is one of the most important hydraulic regions in the human body. Before the gesture does anything, you have to understand what the calf already is. Inside your calf, the deep veins run between muscles that can compress them. Those veins are not stiff pipes. They are soft, collapsible tubes closer to flexible hoses than metal plumbing. Inside them, valves open in one direction and resist backward flow. Every time the calf muscle contracts, the tissue around those veins tightens, the venous chamber narrows, and blood is pressed upward. Every time the muscle relaxes, the chamber opens again and refills from below. This is why vascular medicine often calls the calf muscle pump a peripheral heart, not because it replaces the heart, not because it has its own rhythm, but because, in the upright human body, the return of blood from the lower limbs depends heavily on the pressure created by skeletal muscle. Catherine J. Williams and colleagues at Imperial College London reviewed this mechanism in 2014 in The Calf Muscle Pump Revisited. They emphasized that venous return from the lower extremities depends on an effective pumping mechanism, pressure gradients, and competent valves, and that the calf pump plays a pivotal role because it has high capacitance and generates strong pressure during movement. That one idea changes the gesture. Standing on your tiptoes is not just using your calves. It is temporarily reducing the volume of a venous compartment. It is squeezing a biological reservoir. It is converting muscle shortening into fluid displacement. The unknown fact is that your calf is not only there to move your ankle, it is there to rescue blood from the bottom of a vertical body. In a four-legged animal, the distance between heart and ground is organized differently. In you, the upright posture creates a tall pressure column. Your feet are far below the heart. Your blood has to climb. Hawking spent his life thinking about systems where geometry changes consequence. Space curves and motion changes. A boundary forms and radiation appears. A line on paper becomes a physical prediction. In your lower leg, the geometry is simpler, but the principle is still physical. Change the angle of the ankle, and you change the shape of the calf. Change the shape of the calf, and you change pressure around the veins. Change pressure, and flow changes. The common belief is that circulation is just a heart problem. The science says your circulation is also a movement problem. Not movement as punishment, not movement as calorie burn, movement as the missing pressure wave. If this kind of physical explanation helps you see your body differently, subscribe and leave a like so this series can keep turning tiny gestures into real science. Now rise once more and feel the bottom of your foot. On tiptoe, the pressure shifts forward. The heel loses dominance. The forefoot becomes the contact platform. The Achilles tendon tightens like a cable under load. The gastrocnemius crosses the knee and ankle. The soleus sits deeper, built more like an endurance piston than a show muscle. Together, they pull the heel upward and change the hydraulic state of the lower limb. The engineering analogy is not poetic. It is direct. Imagine a hand pump used to move water from a low reservoir to a higher tank. The handle does not create water. It changes pressure. It narrows one chamber, opens another, and uses valves to keep the fluid from sliding backward. Without valves, the pump wastes force. Without compression, valves do nothing. Without rhythm, there is no useful flow. Your calf works by that same logic. The heart sends blood downward through arteries under pressure. But the venous return from your legs must overcome gravity with far lower pressure. Veins store more blood than arteries. They are compliant. They stretch. They hold. That makes them useful reservoirs, but also makes them vulnerable to pooling when muscles remain quiet. A chair can keep your mind working while your lower leg hydraulics go silent. That silence is not emptiness. It is a missing pulse in a place designed to pulse. The calf does not need constant contraction, and it should not be forced into constant tension, but it expects interruption. It expects the ankle to change. It expects the heel to lift sometimes, the toes to bend sometimes, the knee to unlock sometimes, the body to shift weight from side to side. In natural movement, these events happen almost without identity. No one announces them. No one brands them. They appear as part of walking to a door, stepping over a root, climbing a curb, reaching for something, turning around, or standing on uneven ground. Modern sitting removes the randomness. It gives your lower legs long stretches of sameness. The same knee angle, the same ankle angle, the same pressure under the thighs, the same absence of ground reaction through the foot. This sameness can feel comfortable to the mind because nothing demands attention. But comfort is not the same as circulation. A quiet leg can be a leg with fewer pressure events, fewer sensory updates, and fewer reasons for the vascular system to shift state. That is the part modern life hides. You can be mentally exhausted and muscularly under-signaled at the same time. You can spend 8 hours working, while the calf pump receives almost no meaningful cycles. You can feel heavy legs, cold feet, afternoon fog, restlessness, or the strange urge to move without realizing that a pressure system at the bottom of the body has been underused for hours. The first layer happens in seconds. When you rise onto your tiptoes, motor neurons fire from the spinal cord into the calf muscles. The muscle fibers shorten. The deep fascia tightens around the compartment. The veins inside that compartment are compressed. Venous valves guide the displaced blood upward rather than allowing it to fall back toward the feet. At the same time, proprioceptors in the ankle, Achilles tendon, soleus, gastrocnemius, and foot send information back to the spinal cord and brain. Your nervous system receives a sudden update. The lower body is active, loaded, and upright. This is not motivation. It is hydraulics with nerves attached. The second layer unfolds over seconds to minutes. Repeated rises and lowers create cycles. Contraction ejects venous blood upward. Relaxation allows refilling. The ankle joint moves through plantar flexion and partial return. The soleus, sometimes described in physiology discussions as a postural muscle with a major role in venous return, becomes more than a stabilizer. It becomes a rhythmic compressor. The foot muscles also contribute. The arch changes pressure against the floor. The plantar venous plexus receives and releases load. The movement is small, but the sequence is organized. This is why walking is powerful for circulation. Not because walking is magical, but because walking provides repeated calf pump cycles. Tiptoes compress that idea into a smaller gesture. It is not a substitute for walking, exercise, medical care, or treatment for vascular problems. It is a minimum signal, a brief reactivation of a system that was never designed to stay quiet all day. Williams and colleagues described calf pump dysfunction as an overlooked contributor in chronic venous disease, noting that calf pump failure can influence ambulatory venous pressure and symptoms. Their review did not say that a tiny gesture cures disease. It said the calf pump matters. That distinction is everything. The body does not need exaggeration to be fascinating. The third layer is the one people rarely expect. When your calf pump wakes up, your brain also receives a different internal picture of the body. Circulation is not only liquid moving in tubes, it is sensation, it is temperature, it is pressure, it is the faint heaviness or lightness that tells your nervous system whether the lower body is stagnant or responsive. When blood and interstitial fluid sit low in the body after long stillness, you may interpret the result as tiredness, laziness, low energy, or mental drag. But part of the feeling may come from a body whose lower hydraulic system has been undercycled. Hawking knew that energy is not a mood. Energy is capacity to do work. In the body, that work is not only chemical, it is mechanical. A muscle contraction performs work on fluid. A valve preserves direction. A pressure gradient becomes motion. The body does not need a motivational speech to do this. It needs a physical event. The immediate chemistry is not separate from the mechanics. When muscle fibers contract, they consume ATP, shift ions across membranes, and create local metabolic signals. Blood vessels in active muscle respond to the need for flow. Endothelial cells, the thin living lining inside blood vessels, feel shear stress, the frictional drag created as blood moves along the vessel wall. Shear stress is one of the ways vessels know that flow has changed. It can influence nitric oxide signaling, which helps regulate vessel tone. The point is not that 30 seconds creates a transformation. The point is subtler. The body distinguishes between a silent limb and an active limb by measuring force, pressure, chemistry, and flow at the same time. A motion this small is therefore not only a mechanical push upward, it is a message that the lower limb has re-entered the conversation. During sitting, the calf is often present but unemployed. It holds shape. It may maintain low-level tone. It may become tight in a way that feels like work, but tightness is not the same as rhythmic pumping. A clenched system can still be stagnant. A compressed posture can still fail to create useful direction. The pump needs alternating phases. It needs squeeze and release. It needs the valve to open, then close, then open again. It needs time, but not much. 30 seconds is enough to create several pressure cycles, enough for the nervous system to notice that the lower leg is no longer only a container. This is why the feeling can be surprisingly quick. The sensation does not require a full cardiovascular overhaul. It requires a local change that the brain can detect. Warmer feet, clearer contact with the floor, a mild release behind the knee, or a sense that the legs are less dull are not miracles. They are the conscious edge of a deeper mechanical event. A pharmaceutical or industrial comparison makes the point sharper. Compression devices, pneumatic boots, and hospital leg pumps exist because external pressure can help move venous blood when natural muscle pumping is reduced. They use inflatable chambers to squeeze the legs rhythmically. The machine does from the outside what your calf can do from the inside when it contracts. That does not make Tiptoes a medical device. It simply reveals the industrial respect for the same principle. When the body cannot pump enough through movement, machines imitate pressure cycles. Your calf is the original pressure chamber. Your Achilles tendon is not decoration. Your ankle is not a hinge for shoes. Your lower leg is a hydraulic interface between gravity and the heart. If you want more scripts like this one, subscribe and leave a like. It tells the channel that the audience wants deep science, not shallow wellness. The absence of this gesture is not dramatic at first. That is why people miss it. You do not sit for 1 hour and suddenly feel your circulation disappear. You sit, and the lower body slowly becomes less dynamic. The ankle stops changing angle, the calf stops compressing deep veins, the foot stops loading and unloading, the hip stays folded, the diaphragm may become shallow, the whole body continues living, but a major pressure rhythm becomes faint. After one long day, you might notice heavy ankles, cold toes, tight calves, or the strange feeling that your legs are full even though you did not train them. After weeks and months of repeated stillness, the body learns the pattern. The calf loses frequent short contractions. The ankle may lose comfortable range. The foot becomes less articulate. The nervous system stops expecting the lower body to report much detail. The belief is that tired legs mean you used them too much. The mechanism rewrites it. Tired legs can mean your lower body pump was asked to hold fluid without being allowed to move it. That sentence matters because it changes the blame. Your legs are not failing you because they are weak or old or lazy. They may be responding rationally to a physical environment that removed their cycles. A chair keeps the knee bent, the ankle quiet, and the calf underused. A car seat does the same. A couch does the same. A long flight does the same, which is why medical advice around travel often emphasizes ankle movement, walking when possible, and awareness of swelling or clot symptoms. This is also where caution belongs. If you have known vascular disease, unexplained swelling, chest pain, shortness of breath, severe calf pain, recent surgery, clot risk, heart problems, dizziness, or neurological symptoms, a 30-second gesture is not a diagnosis and not a treatment plan. The correct response is medical evaluation. The physics of the calf pump is real, but physics does not give anyone permission to ignore warning signs. For the healthy person who has simply been still too long, though, the gesture reveals a baseline. It reminds the body that circulation was not designed around perfect stillness. It was designed around small pressure changes happening again and again across the day. Modern life sells circulation as something automatic. The body built it as something cooperative. You cooperate by changing shape. The cooperation begins in the feet. The foot is not a block at the end of the leg. It is a segmented pressure platform. When you rise onto the forefoot, the metatarsal heads receive load, the toes organize balance, and the plantar fascia changes tension. These changes alter how the lower leg muscles fire. The calf pump does not live alone in the calf. It is connected to the foot below and the knee above. The soleus is especially important because it works while the knee is bent or straight, and because it is deeply involved in postural control. It can contract without the drama of a sprint. It can work quietly, repeatedly, and economically. That quietness is why people underestimate it. A muscle does not have to look impressive to matter. The muscles that keep you alive often work below the level of vanity. The diaphragm moves thousands of times a day without applause. The tiny muscles around the eyes constantly adjust vision without being called training. The smooth muscle in blood vessels regulates diameter without ever appearing in a mirror. The calf pump belongs to that category of humble intelligence. It is not there to impress the room. It is there to keep a vertical animal from becoming a stagnant column. Hydraulic physics is not a metaphor added later. It is the language the leg already speaks. Pressure at the ankle is not the same as pressure near the heart. Height matters. Column length matters. Valve direction matters. Tube compliance matters. chamber compression matters. Hawking's world was built on equations more abstract than this, but the discipline is the same. You do not understand a system by naming its parts. You understand it by asking what happens when energy, pressure, and boundaries interact. On Tiptoe, the boundary between floor and foot changes. The boundary between muscle and vein changes. The boundary between stillness and movement changes. The body reads those boundary changes as useful information. A tiptoe raise looks vertical, but the effect spreads horizontally through systems. The ankle changes, the calf contracts, the veins compress, the foot loads, the arch stiffens and releases. The vestibular system checks balance, the spinal cord coordinates muscle tone, the brain updates body position. The heart receives venous return within a changing pressure field. The breath may shift without conscious command. That is why the gesture is bigger than the calves. It touches the autonomic nervous system because blood pressure regulation depends on constant feedback. Baroreceptors in major arteries monitor stretch. The brainstem adjusts heart rate and vessel tone in response to pressure changes. When you stand, the body must prevent too much blood from staying low. When you move the calves, you add a muscular assist to that problem. The nervous system does not experience this as philosophy. It experiences it as data. The body is always asking, where is the fluid? Where is the pressure? Where is the load? Where is the risk? A heel raise answers with motion. On an evolutionary scale, the calf pump is not a trick. It is part of the price of being upright. Bipedal walking gave humans free hands, long-distance locomotion, and an unusual view of the horizon. But it also put the heart above the feet and forced blood to travel vertically against gravity. The body solved this not with one giant organ, but with distributed mechanics. Valves in veins, muscles around tubes, a foot that deforms, an ankle that moves, a gait cycle that repeats thousands of times. The baseline was never one heroic workout at the end of the day. The baseline was frequent low-grade movement, standing, shifting, walking, squatting, climbing, rising, lowering. Modern life removed the repetitions and then marketed solutions for the consequences. Desks rose, footrests appeared, compression products expanded, fitness trackers counted steps. None of these are inherently bad, but they point to the same missing truth. The body was not built to outsource every small rhythm to a scheduled session. The tiptoe gesture is not a cure, it is a reminder of the contract. The lower body helps return what gravity pulls down. The protocol is simple because the mechanism is simple. Stand with your feet about hip-width apart. Keep one hand on a wall, table, or chair if balance is not effortless. Let your knees stay slightly soft, not locked. Inhale normally. Rise onto the balls of your feet over 1 to 2 seconds. Pause briefly at the top, not as a strain, only as a clear contraction. Lower the heels slowly until they touch the floor. Repeat for 30 seconds. The minimum effective dose is not maximum height. It is a clean contraction and release. If you bounce, you turn the gesture into momentum. Momentum reduces the muscular squeeze. If you lock your knees hard, you turn the body into a rigid pole. Rigidity reduces the fluid intelligence of the movement. If you hold your breath, you disturb the pressure system you are trying to help. Breath holding changes intrathoracic pressure and can make some people lightheaded. The point is not intensity. The point is rhythm. A good signal feels like warmth waking in the calves, pressure moving through the forefoot, and a mild sense that your legs have become more present. You may feel your posture become taller without forcing it. You may feel the feet become clearer against the floor. You may feel the breath settle after the set because the nervous system has received a concrete body event. For people with limited balance, do it seated. Sit tall. Place both feet flat. Lift the heels while keeping the balls of the feet on the floor. Squeeze the calves gently and lower again. The hydraulic effect is smaller than standing because body weight is reduced, but the ankle still moves, the calf still contracts, and the venous chamber still receives a signal. For people who cannot perform repeated raises, use ankle pumps. Point the toes away, then pull them back toward the shins. Slow enough to feel the calf and front of the ankle alternate. The mechanism remains pressure change and directional movement, not performance. For people who stand all day, the mistake is assuming standing is enough. Static standing can also allow pooling because the pump needs cycles. Being upright is not the same as pumping. A statue is upright. It is not circulating like a walker. Use the gesture after long sitting, before a walk, during a work break, after getting out of a car, or when you notice your legs feeling heavy for no obvious reason. Do not turn it into a ritual of obsession. The body does not need superstition. It needs repeated chances to do what it was built to do. Comment below with the exact moment your legs feel heaviest during the day. Morning, after lunch, during work, after driving, or before bed. That answer says more about your circulation patterns than a vague, "I feel tired." Before that error appears in thought, it appears in language. People say, "I need better circulation," as if circulation were a product delivered from somewhere else. They say, "My legs are lazy," as if the legs had a moral defect. They say, "I am getting old," when the body may simply be missing the mechanical variety that used to come for free. Age changes vessels, muscles, nerves, and recovery. That is real. But modern stillness can make a young body feel older by starving it of ordinary pressure events. The gesture does not reverse time. It gives the present body one physical condition it recognizes. The final error is psychological. People think a small movement cannot matter because the culture trained them to respect only exhaustion. If it does not burn, it did not count. If it does not take an hour, it did not change anything. If it does not look impressive, it cannot be scientific. But physics has never cared about spectacle. A valve opens, or it does not. A pressure gradient forms, or it does not. A chamber compresses, or it does not. Flow changes because conditions change, not because the movement looks heroic. Hawking made people look at enormous questions by following tiny consequences. A boundary around a black hole was not just a line. It changed what could be said about energy, heat, information, and time. The human calf is not cosmic, but it teaches a similar humility. The surface of a small event can hide a system larger than the eye can see. Your tiptoes do not command the whole circulation. They participate in it. They remind you that the body is not a sealed machine run only from the chest. It is a distributed landscape of pumps, gates, chambers, sensors, and pressures. The heart is central, but not alone. The brain is brilliant, but not alone. The legs are not passengers. They are part of the return. For 30 seconds, rising and lowering, you feel a truth that modern stillness tries to erase. Blood has weight. Gravity has patience. Muscle has a job. And sometimes the smallest lift is not an escape from the ground, but the way your body sends something back up.